Let's say good morning to our first guest. She is Cara and Jefferson County Commissioner. Good morning to you. Thank you for coming in.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, guys.
Your former high school is now a 7-time 3A champion, well, state champion. I'm not sure how many different classifications that covers over the years of Linganore High School, but they won in Maryland, beat my Oakdale Bears convincingly Saturday night.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
It's interesting because we were talking about this a little bit before the radio. I went to Linganore High School, and then while they were rebuilding Linganore, we were all moved to Oakdale, which is where you coach. So it's very interesting that they have been in the states twice together against each other,
23 and 25,
and they're huge rivals now. But my senior year, we won states. So 2009.
Your senior year was the Rob Havenstein year.
Yes.
He had a long career with the Rams.
Yes, he was in my graduating class.
He was so huge.
Oh yeah.
6'7", 300-something pounds. When you watched him on a high school football field, it just seemed like the field tilted whatever side he was on.
Yes.
Huge man.
And his twin brother, who looked very different, he was also very tall, but was a really good basketball player. So.
Let's talk about the reason why you're here today.
Yes, so let's get in it. Last legislative session, HB 2014 was a data center and microgrid bill, and the goal was to improve efficiency throughout the state, allowing one size fits all for approvals. So it allows the state to approve data centers, superseding local control. And so data centers work directly with the landowners and the state to get approvals and permits for data centers throughout the state in all 55 counties. So that bill had some speed bumps in the last legislative session. Initially, when the bill was brought up, it actually took all real estate tax revenue, which is how counties pay for their critical services, fire, EMS, everything, and we're going to initially redistribute it throughout the state with other projects. One of the great things was reducing income state tax. However, we were able, thanks to many great senators, Senator Barrett and Delegate Joe Funkhauser, they were able to alter some of the parameters of the direction. So the counties now get 30% of the share, and 10% of the share is spread per capita throughout the state. So if a data center is built in Tucker County, which there's one currently proposed, that would be shared. 10% of their proceeds would be shared throughout the state per capita. So
like the coal severance tax.
Exactly. It's very similar to that. So they removed local control, and so that was, and it explicitly states in the bill that it supersedes local zoning. So you will not have concept plans. You will not have a planning commission. If it's within a municipality, they will have no oversight, legal authority over approving or not approving or asking for any type of proffers or modifications. If it goes against a residential subdivision, what could be done locally? Well, nothing. So that's kind of why I'm here today. This bill passed, and before the bill is turned into law, you have a rulemaking process. And so what I'm advocating for is industry standard setbacks and provisions that are supported and done throughout the entire nation. Pro-growth, Republican, hoorah-rah states. This is how they're done, and this is why they're done, and learn from mistakes of areas that have overdeveloped data centers and what they've learned. The education is key here. We have the power to look at this and work with the bill, but I have quite a few feedback items. So on the last week of November, I sent my feedback for rulemaking, but I want to make sure as a commissioner I'm doing my job with Jefferson County in educating the public of this bill and what this means from a land use perspective and what we can still advocate for during the rulemaking.
In talking with local legislators when this bill was passed, and they did anticipate there would be some local pushback on this, ultimately, though, what they wanted to make sure was that when data centers were negotiating with the state, that there was one uniform code that they would have to abide by, one set of rules, so that they could put a data center pretty much in any county in West Virginia and it all be even, all be equal. They didn't want to have to go county by county negotiations for, well, how difficult it is here and this one over here and whatever. They wanted everything to be uniform. Obviously, that creates a problem for county commissioners because you now lose your control over any say-so of where it would go and any of the setbacks and restrictions around it. They promised to be a good partner, but, we've heard that before.
Right. If they promise to be a good partner, why not codify it? Why not have it within the law so that, I think West Virginia has a history of making decisions that ultimately make us a victim later on. So why not make educated decisions? This is using industry standards that we have, that we are educated on. Why not use this within the confines of the state's direction? So if they are going to supersede local control, and me as a planning commissioner and a county commissioner, I don't have a say or a seat at the table, make the rules fair for the counties that they will reside in. Mm-hmm. These companies, a lot of these companies are want to be good neighbors. They want to play ball. They don't want to be hated by by the residents. But not all companies are the same. So this just sets us up for a lot of uphill battles, and I think if we just from the onset put some rules and provisions in, we're going to be a lot better off. The constituents will react a lot more positively, and it's imperative during this rulemaking process that we add some of these provisions in my opinion.
Bill?
Yeah, good morning, Cara.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today. The history of this has been somewhat convoluted. As my understanding is that it was originally written as a microgrid bill, and the data center part was added to it much later. The governor has become very personal on this. He's a personal champion, and he takes offense if you really challenge it, as a lot of the county commissioners have found out. They tried to push back, and he's pushed back very hard on them. To me, there's two aspects of this, and you've kind of mentioned both of them. One is the loss of county control as far as the zoning. Everything else is thrown out of the window. Whether you have zoning, you do have a lot of ordinances. Those are being thrown out of the window. If the state wants to adhere to them, fine. If they don't want to adhere to them, that's fine as well. The other aspect is the funding or the amount of money. It's the county commissioners, I understand, get approximately 80% from a data center microgrid that they would normally get. Not the 100% they would normally get, but they get 80%. But the ones that are suffering the most are the school boards. The school boards have been penalized a lot more. My question is, what can be done at this stage? Supposedly the House looked at it fairly quickly, not really knowing all the provisions. The Senate, though, looked at it very, very thoroughly, as did Senator Barrett. So it has been vetted by both the House and the Senate, passed by both House and Senate, and been signed by the governor. What are you expecting to do at this point in time?
The bill has passed. You're right.
Yeah.
And at the time, this was last week of March, maybe the first week of April, that this bill hit the floor through the delegates first looked at it, and once it passed there, I looked at the bill that night in detail, and I was one of the first folks to be alarmed by what I was seeing. I actually looked at the breakdown and I said, is this what I think it is? And the next morning I met with our assessor and confirmed with the state. But I put a post up saying, I don't know what this is, but it looks like we could also be losing our tax revenue, but also our zoning control. And so now, it has passed. They were able to, the Berkeley County commissioners, many of them went down to Charleston and advocated for provisions of this bill, and I'm thankful for them. Our President Majdi also did, and we didn't get local control back, but these modifications I'm asking for. So, as an example, a minimum of 500 feet from any residential or agricultural property line. That is something that Loudoun County has now increase their buffers for residential use too, because they've learned what works and what doesn't work, and they've heard from their constituents. Now, a minimum of 200 feet from any commercial or industrial property line, so a decrease. So if you have them in areas grouped with areas that are similar, you can have less of a buffer line. So that, and what I would also ask for is preferred district designations shall be approved by the county commission. So even though we don't have control, we could put forth, if we are required to approve, this is coming through, can we work with the state to have an overlay area of a preferred data center district? So these are areas where they will be complementary to each other. They won't hopefully be backed up to a residential development or a tourism industry. You know, Jefferson County, that's one of our big slices of pie is our tourism. It's not everything, but we want to make sure that one industry growth does not hurt our other slices of our pies.
So you're not asking to rescind the bill. You're not asking for another bill to rule this. You're asking for just some provisions to be made to the bill to 2014 that would add some protection from the land use aspect,
Yes.
but not addressing the the revenue sharing at all. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, I did advocate to make modifications while this bill was on the floor. Some of them were made, and I appreciate that, but the local control wasn't. So I'm trying to work with our governor. He's from Jefferson County, Governor Morsi, and I think he wants to do the right thing. He wants to work with his constituents. And so I hope that our legislators are listening. I hope that the state is listening and will allow using information in other states, in other counties, in other states, giving a framework for what we can do. Another little nugget that is done in another area is Frederick County, Maryland. It has a 1% cap. They essentially created an overlay. So they're putting all the data centers in one location and essentially puts a 1% cap of land use in the county. And I believe they are still going to be making something around $100 million from that cap. So it's not removing economic benefit. What you're doing is you're protecting in 20 years or in 10 years, if this becomes an obsolete industry, because technology is always evolving. These buildings on average are about 500,000 square feet.
Yep.
These are not easily teared down structures. So if they're scattered throughout our country, this could be future obsolescence and blight. So I'm thinking long term, how do we have the best return on investment for our county and other counties? Because I want other counties to succeed. I want to play ball with this bill, but not to hurt my county.
So your list of proposed changes or amendments to, I guess, the rules seemed very reasonable to me. I mean, we're talking about setbacks, we're talking about groundwater protection, surface water usage. This is pretty vanilla stuff, reasonable stuff. Are you getting pushback on this, or have you proposed it yet?
Yeah, so right now, as the bill and the rules are currently in draft, there is 0% setback, 0 feet setback. So
is it codified as such, or is it just not mentioned?
It's not mentioned. So companies could come in, and Meemaw's house has talked a lot about it on the Senate floor. And so I would argue, well, Meemaw's house, what about her electricity bill? Because one of the great things about this bill is it will steward electricity increases on the developer, not the constituents, which I appreciate. But Meemaw's house, I don't think she wants a 0-foot setback from her backyard property line when you have diesel generators and noise and 500,000 square feet of building area right next to you. I mean, you would hear humming in your bedroom at night. There's reasons why this is industry standard. This is not activism. This is purely, and I do get some pushback, but from my constituents, people who are not financially intertwined in this, I think it's very much appreciated.
Well, and it would render your house worthless.
Right.
There's no resale value in a house nobody wants to live in.
And I went to a family event in Fairfax County, and I ended up driving through Loudoun County and through the data center jungle that's there. It's hideous. I mean, it is an absolutely hideous
and that's with zoning.
Industry. That is with zoning. You're absolutely right. And I I caution our legislatures to remember that the petrochemical industry is really good for Newark, New Jersey's economy, but it's kind of ruined Newark, New Jersey, right? There are a lot of things that look really great on paper, but actually ruin the character of an area. So I personally caution to keep that in mind. This is a rural area. I often wonder, we've all heard about NIMBY, not in my backyard syndrome, and I really worry. West Virginia kind of has a reputation outside of West Virginia as being something other than the wonderful state that it is, and I worry that we are accepting being everybody's backyard. And so whatever can be done, my personal opinion on this, not that I get a vote, my personal opinion on this is that whatever we can do to make these as unoffensive as possible is kind of the way you got to go.
But to use John's term, vanilla, if you're trying to make some vanilla suggestions, you're probably going to be successful, have a great chance. If you're going to go to the core of it and challenge the concept or the precepts, then you have a tough ride. But just making modifications to make it more acceptable to the public, you should be successful.
I hope so. And I appreciate the governor listening, and I appreciate legislators listening. I just want to work with this bill. So I'm a mom of 4. I'm a mama bear. Jefferson County is my domain that I want to protect, So I want to do everything I can to be productive.
Is the Association of Counties backing you on this?
They lobbied all throughout legislative session, and yes, this was by far one of the highest legislative priorities. And I assume and they have said that this will be a conversation in the next legislative session too.
Now they were lobbying for 2014, were they not? They were looking at the big picture. What you're suggesting today is not the big picture; it's just making modifications to the big picture to make it more acceptable to the folks living around there.
Correct. Yeah.
Cara Keys, Jefferson County Commissioner, our guest here on the program. So what's next?
So we have, a really good resource for constituents to go onto is the observerwv.com. Steve Pearson did a great overview. It's on his website, and it talks about this process and the rulemaking, who to email. It has all the legislators there as well, so you can email. What you have until December 10th is the ability to give your thoughts and opinions on this matter to the state. And once that is done, then it essentially will go to the legislators to vote on passing this into law. So this will be moving quickly. And so that's why I want to go on the radio. I want to, I'm putting this on my social media. You can follow me, Cara Keys, County Commissioner. You can go on, theobserverwv.com for more information, and just continue to talk to your legislators.
By the way, Steve Pearson will be on the program Wednesday at 9:30 and tomorrow at Egokan Hour. I think Steve Catlett, too. I'm not sure if Steve's available, but I know Eddie is, so he'll be on tomorrow. I assume you've already met with at least Eddie in regards to this bill.
Yes, I've sent all of my rulemaking and overviews to all the legislators, to my fellow commissioners, and so they know how I feel, and I don't want to speak for them, so I'm sure they'll have their own thoughts.
About Morgan County, have you had any close contact with them regarding this bill?
Some, they have a very different component here than us, but yes, I have talked with them, and we've all met with the governor in a legislative kind of round table a few months ago.
What's the very different component?
So they have physical constraints with their topography that would, I think, limit a lot of the fears that we as Jefferson County would have. They don't have, for example, karst topography throughout their county. They're not located right along Data Center Alley in Loudoun County. So, even Berkeley County, every county is going to be a little bit different of their priorities, but it's important that they understand what our priorities are, and they can pick and choose what priorities they want to advocate for.
You have a
No, I
little
was going to
correction
say,
there, Bill?
mention karst topography. Karst topography is not really a player in here. It could be a secondary player with some water, but it's not a major water usage. It's a power usage more than anything else, and location, and how it's buffered from the general public.
Yes, so...
Only have 10 seconds,
Yes,
Cara.
okay.
Gotta be
Well,
quick.
about surface water, that's kind of the connection. But thank you so much for having me, and feel free to go look at my issues. If anyone would like to, you can always email me. So,
Thank you, Cara.
yeah, thank you.